Hello and welcome. It's good to see you once again. Are you an employee? Are you living with special need? Or you have a loved one or a close relative with special need? Would you want to be included at your workplace? Are you frustrated? Have you been excluded for a very long time? Do you believe in change? Do you believe that your plight can change within a twinkle of an eye? Do you take responsibility to get things changed at your workplace? If your answers are yes to these questions, then welcome. You are in the right place at the right time. Hello and welcome to this. Before we proceed, let me introduce myself to you. My name is Shirley En, Shirley En for short. I am the founder and the principal consultant at Thaboshi Investment. This is a consultancy company that specializes in inclusion in businesses and other organizations. I have more than 10 years experience working in inclusion space, having coordinated special and inclusive education program for over 10 years, and also having taught. I have trained many people in inclusion matters, including teachers, parents, and students. I have conducted research in inclusion and have publicized some articles, journalistic articles on inclusion. I remain passionate about helping businesses and other organizations develop and implement inclusion policies and strategies. Hello and welcome. The purpose of this video is to share steps or tips on steps that an employee should take in order to get included in the workplace. We know that inclusion does not just come automatic, because it's not everybody that needs to be included in the workplace. So there are certain types of employees that would need to be included in the workplace, and the video or the purpose of this video is to share steps that can guide such an employee on what he or she can do in order to get included. Well, let's first look at which employees would need to be included. An employee would need to be included if he or she is living with special need, he has disability, or he has a disorder, or he is living with a health condition that would necessitate extra support in the workplace. So such employees are the ones, and there could be many others that would need to be included. And if it's not the employee directly who has a special needs, a very close relative to that employee could be living with special needs. Such relative could be children, or a spouse, or parents who are directly under that employee. Especially in the African culture, we know that there are a lot of employees who are taking care of their parents. So such employees might need. The purpose of this video is to share 5 steps that you can take to get your employer to be able to include you. 5 steps that you can take to get your employer to include you. Remember that inclusion is not automatic. We have people in the mainstream who are already included. And now the purpose of inclusion in the workplace is to accommodate those with special needs. And it's not everybody who has special needs. It's not on an everyday basis that we get people with special needs. So if you know that you have a special need, it's a responsibility to take these first steps in order to help your employer to be able to include you. So the first step that you need to take in order to assist your employer to be able to include you is to get assessed or diagnosed by relevant professionals such as doctors, such as social workers, such as special educationists and psychologists, like that. So it is your responsibility as an employee that you are assessed and you have a proof to show that indeed you have a special need. That proof is very, very important, and it is your responsibility to make sure that your special needs is proved through an assessment or a diagnosis process. The second responsibility or step that you need to take is to inform the employer. It is your responsibility as an employee to make sure that you inform your employer. You can inform your employer through the human resource officers or through your supervisors and others. You can, if you had an interview or you have an opportunity for an interview, that is the right time for you to be able to inform your employer. You can also inform your employer during the application process, or if you didn't inform the employer during your application process, you can still inform your employer during the orientation process or the orientation processes. So these are your information to the employer could be verbal or it could be in a written form. So whichever way that you use, the most important thing is that you should inform your employer. The third important step that you need to take is to educate your employer. In most organizations, there are no inclusion specialists. Your supervisor, your human resource officers, and whoever people that would be in the organization might not know about your condition. Even if people know about special needs, it's still, there are so many special needs such that it is not possible for anyone to know all of them. So you might be bringing a condition that even myself as a specialist is my first time to hear about it, or I'm not privy to the information on such a condition. So it is your responsibility as an employer to educate, as an employee to educate your employer about your condition, so that your employer might need to include you. The fourth step that you need to embark on or to take is to show your employer willingness to work with the condition that you have. Show the employer how much you can do by yourself or without any support, and how much you would need with the support. Show without support how much you can go, so that the employer can appreciate why you need support. Don't just fold hands. Don't demand for sympathy. Look for acceptance. Instead of looking for sympathy, look for acceptance. Don't fold hands and start complaining that you are not included when you have not even started work. Start work. Do something so that the employer can see your strengths and your weaknesses. Your employer can be able to see from your actions what kind of support you need, or how much you can go, and how much you are limited. So basically what I'm trying to say here is that bring a positive attitude to your workplace. Bring your Don't use your special need or your disability to demand special treatment. Don't use your condition to demand special treatment even before you start work. That shows a negative attitude. Rather than a negative attitude, show a positive attitude, show a willingness to work. And so that support is something that you will only make you to be able to excel, instead of making it as if you cannot work without support. Almost all people with special needs can work, but they would need an extra support. We all need that, they would need extra support, but some people who might not be privy to issues of inclusion and special needs might not be convinced that you need as an extra support. So show your employer that you can work, yes, but you would need an extra support. The last one, and the fifth and last step that you need to take, is to associate or unionize. If there's a union or an association for people with special needs, join in so that these people can be able to help you in terms of labor issues. They can be able to empower you as an employee with special needs. I want to go over all these steps again for clarity. The first one is an assessment or a diagnosis. You need that. The earlier, the better. We always say early intervention is the best. So as early as possible, get assessment, get identified, get diagnosed, so that intervention can start early in your life. The second one is to inform your employer in writing or verbally. Let your employer know about your condition. Also educate the employer as the third step about your condition. The fourth step there is to show your employer, show him that you are willing to work. Do the work with the little that you have. Without support, start working, so that support would find you already doing the work instead of folding hands. The last one is that you should associate or unionize. So these are the 5 steps that will help you to get included, and no employer can be able to resist these 5 steps.